Good day, everyone. Welcome back to the Obstacle Racing Media YouTube channel. Today, an interview with Ryan Atkins and Graham Roberts of Knox Coaching. You may have seen a post or two about Knox. Well, Ryan wore the shirt while he was in Abu Dhabi, and I think they've been doing a couple of posts about it. But I'm happy to kind of break the news, to kind of break the breakdown. And by the time we got done talking about these training, I wanted to sign up for it. Do I say that about everybody I interview? No. So you know it's legit. That's the French word for good or true. I spoke with them just yesterday, and I'm going to bring this to you. Here's Ryan and Graham and Knox training. Away we go. Let's talk about Knox training. Where do you guys want to start? I mean, I think, Ryan, you know, all cards on the table. You did have a training program out several years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You and John.
Me and John, we did obstacle course dot training, I think it was called. And that was with Matt Murphy and a bunch of guys from Australia and stuff. And we kind of put the program together, and it was a great program. A bunch of people used it, and then it kind of just like faded away. And I think that the reason why it was less, like the training programs are great. I still stand behind like everything we put out there. I think that today, with the amount of multimedia we have access to, that people are craving more than just kind of a Monday 6 miles, Tuesday 5 miles with some pickups, Wednesday, like a very cut and dry training program of exactly what to do. And they're craving more of that community and that interaction, which is so possible and available with technology today. And so that's what we're doing with Knox. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really psyched about it. And it's kind of incorporating mental training through Graham, with physical training through me. And the beauty of technology to kind of keep everybody together and accountable and excited and rolling forward on everything they do.
What is Knox? What does it mean to Knox?
Well, it came from a little podcast called Obstacle Racing Media in the summer, actually.
Woohoo! 2 for 2.
2 for 2, Matt. 2 for 2. You're an integral part of this relationship. No, so you might remember back in the summer, Ryan put out that, highly interacted post around excuses for Utah.
Oh.
And we came and talked to you, and we were talking about how easy it is for people to make excuses why something's not been great. And, just in one of our sidebars, Ryan and I were like, well, actually, maybe there's something in that about this idea that the excuses, there can't be any excuses if you really want to do your best. Mm-hmm. There can be things you can factor for, the things you can do from there. So when we were playing around with ideas of what we could call this thing, I was like, well, why don't we go back to that and see if there's actually something at the core of what we're going to do and offer that says leaving no stone unturned. Sleeping away from your wife for a month in an altitude tent to get ready for Abu Dhabi is an option, right? If that's where you want to go to. With no other athletes who miss their sisters' weddings in order to be at the race they wanted to perform their best at. Often our brains are very good at making compromises that mean we don't do as well as we can. And then we talk in the bar afterwards and say, oh, well, it was like this. And, I didn't have enough grip on my VJs, or, I forgot to put lube on my chafy bits. So my inseam rubbed so much that I'm in pain and I slowed down as a result. It's just an excuse. You didn't put enough cream on in the first place. So yeah, that is kind of where it all started, really. So,
and this is the lovely logo we have.
Yeah.
Oh, so there it says. Cool. It says no excuses at the bottom. See, I'd only seen the logo. I guess I hadn't read. I thought maybe it stood for something like NOx stood for something. Like that's why I was thinking like NOx, like high octane. Like that's why I made that joke.
That was the other little thing as well. What do you put in your car? Nitrous oxide,
right? Little NOx.
Gets going in the morning.
Another little science thing for you, Matt. What do you think? What's the active ingredients for beets?
What is the
science quiz?
Well, I know it's a vasodilator.
It's a vasodilator, and it uses nitric oxide.
Oh, very interesting.
Mm.
Graham,
available for all science questions.
Graham,
math.
Great topic. I'd love to ask you another question about. I know people really love to hear from Ryan, Spartan world champion, multi world champion of other things. But I'd like to ask you, it is what the mind does, right? To protect ourselves, to immediately rationalize, right? Mm-hmm. I got fired from this job. Well, you know what? It's better because X, Y, and Z, right? Mm-hmm. And we all, and many of us do need to find silver linings, and life is full of silver linings and lessons and all the rest of it. But it is what our mind does. That's a what's the term? That's like a lizard
protective mechanism.
Yeah. So how do we know when we're being full of shit to ourselves? Should we ask 10 friends? Should we, how do we know when we're being full of shit with ourselves?
Stunning question. What I would say to that is to look at your answer and put it in a context, in a triangle of three contexts. Is it about I, is it about we, or is it about it? And which position are you mainly talking to in placing the accountability for the moment? If there isn't an equal balance between all three, then you're probably talking bullshit to yourself somewhere along the lines. Oh, it was them doing that to me. Other people made me feel like that. Well, yeah, but you were the one that reacted in the way you did to the way they were making you feel. So your balance on the I, we thing is out. If it's, oh, well, we were trying to make sure we had the most successful launch in social media history. Yeah, but were you concentrating on another project that meant that you spent 50% of your time on that and missed time doing that from there? So that's the I-it framework. If you look at it from there and just assess where you are, there is always two sides to the tango. Make sure you're paying attention to both sides.
Oh, 3 sides.
All 3. Well done. It's been a long day, Matt. It's late in the UK now.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to stay on this topic now because I got very upset, which I don't necessarily do this I get upset a lot. I'm a very emotional guy, but I don't necessarily post about it. And I was watching this stuff about the Theranos lady and
who?
Pharmaceutical company, if I remember rightly, Theranos.
She's a fraud. She's basically much like many frauds before her, offered something that she couldn't deliver on, and rather than say I can't deliver on it, the lies just got bigger and bigger as the billions rolled in, and she and her boyfriend cashed out, and eventually she got caught. Not first, people wrote some stories, which, they tried to sue. They tried to, you shouldn't write this about us because none of it's true and yada, yada. Anyway, so there's this Silicon Valley, right, thing that has come from this sort of basic entrepreneur idea called fake it till you make it, right? Which, when I was growing up, was really a much more innocuous term, right? So, I didn't know how to podcast or interview or whatever, but I wanted to do it, so I put myself out there and did it, right? And now I think I've got certain skills about it. I'm a lot better at it, right? Growing the website, like people would be like, well, how big is your website? And it's like, well, listen, it's not that big, but we're getting there. And it's this sort of like genuine bootstrap thing. But now the Silicon Valley thing is, well, just fucking lie your face off, right? And if you get caught, oh well, right? So as an entrepreneur, Graham, or as I know probably people listening are business owners, can can we conflate that? Can we get that back to some sort of, you know, do you sort of get what I'm asking?
I think what I'm hearing you say is it's kind of the principle of absolute truth. And how far from that absolute truth are you allowing yourself to go ethically, socially, consciously, whatever? And for me, I'm a big believer in authenticity. It's something that drives me. I think it also drives the trust that you build with people and the way that you do things in a trusting way. And if that becomes misplaced or that authenticity isn't right, for me, I sit there and go, well, that's not ideal. Like, for example, sporting wise, I am never, ever going to be able to run a 15-minute 5K. But I may be able to get 30 seconds quicker than I have done if I apply myself and try and make myself great. So for me, it's about recognizing that absolute truth of things rather than sort of playing on it so much that you just start to mislead and be disingenuous. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
I think so. Do you have any thoughts? Ryan Atkins?
Yeah, I think that like it's basically the way you prefaced it is very like appropriate. But if you're emulating someone who's having success, then and you're kind of portraying that success through what you're doing, and you're not really harming anybody, then that's kind of one thing. That's the, you know, no harm done. You might be just like, say you're telling, oh, people, I'm doing this, and but like no one's, you know, getting hurt from it. But if you're actively deceiving people or taking things, you know, to kind of benefit yourself in a way that harms others, whether it's financially or reputationally or whatever, then I think that's a different kind of category of faking it until you're making it. Also, I think the concept is a good one at its essence, and it kind of removes that barrier to entry, because I think a lot of people don't do things because they feel like, oh, in order to like do this thing, I need to be here. I need to be level perfect. Whereas almost nobody is there, and everybody starts somewhere. So everybody starts as a beginner and as, you know, faking it until they make it. And I think just that act of trying and pursuing greatness is, like Graham said, like the stepping stone to your personal best or to a better version of yourself. And if you don't want to ever step outside of your comfort zone and kind of like try, then you're never going to see what you could do.
So let's bring this straight to the start line. Let's bring this all back around straight to the OCR start line, right? And someone's there. Okay, let's take it away from Ryan. Let's talk about the female side, just to kind of. Mm-hmm. And Nicole is there, and Lindsay is there, and who's historically, let's say, finished 5th or 6th or even 8th, whatever. And you say, "What are you going to do today?" And they go, "You know what? If I can be 3rd, it would be fucking the balls." I was going to say the bomb, and then I said the balls. It was weird.
That was better.
Right?
You just record that so people can have that as a text message.
If I could finish behind the current best 2 women, right, or whoever the best 2 women that were there, like Annie and Lindsay or whoever. So 3rd would be the fucking bomb for me, right? Mm-hmm. And then you ask another person, and you say, "Well, how do you think you're going to do?" Like, "Well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I could win." So, you know. And you know what I'm saying? And some say that's the mentality to have. Well, shit, if you can't say it, if you can't put that out into the universe, blah, 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 right? So I guess my question is, how would you coach someone? How do you coach people that way? How much do you keep them, quote unquote, grounded in reality of past performance? Is it individualized?
Who is that?
And then I want to hear Ryan's thoughts on that.
Okay, cool. Right. So
I want to hear your first.
For me in that one, and if you watch interviews before people at start lines, if you look very, very carefully, you can start to spot the differences about where they are.
Okay.
And the ones, not just in OCR, in actually most sports, they're the ones that tend to talk like they're forward thinking. There's a humility about what they've done to prepare, but there's an awareness that all outcomes are possible. So they might sit there and say, well, today I'm just going to focus about giving it my best effort in X, Y, and Z ways. And what will be, will be. The ones who come in and say, today I'm going to win. This is my day. It's all about mine. They tend to be lying to themselves. And they very rarely win in that circumstance because they've convinced themselves to such an extent, they've lost track of all the things that they need to do to deliver the outcome they want. So you see in a lot of people in a lot of sports, Jordan, LeBron, Lindsey Vonn, they're never focused on trying to win a title or win a race. They're focused on trying to put their best effort in every little moment, in every way possible. And the outcome deals with itself. I call it input focus. There's various other terms for it, but focus on what you've got to do, not what you're trying to get.
Well, I think actually this is very, very timely considering Ryan. We heard Ryan say, during the race, like, ain't going to happen again. Right. Not going to let this guy, not going to wait to make my move. But for you, Ryan, that was an in-race decision. That wasn't how you were thinking on the start, or was it?
No, absolutely not. Start. The race, kind of holding myself. And I know that and I kind of talked about before, but open different possibilities.
You might need to go audio only because I really want to hear this answer, and you're all choppy.
Right.
I love seeing you.
I'll try to de-chopify. So yeah, I'm on the start line. I'm always kind of holding and open to possibilities. What could be. And when I'm racing, I'm always kind of react based on information I'm kind of getting, and those could be how I'm feeling, my heart rate, my pace, what people are doing around me, the obstacles, the terrain, things like that. So you're kind of taking those, and then the mental component, or like the decision making, is all done based on those factors. So I'm never like holding myself rigidly to one outcome or one decision. It's always always kind of reacting based on what's going on around me. And so at the start line, you're just open to like all these different possibilities of how you could feel that day, or how what could happen, or so like it's like walking into a test, right? And you've studied as best as you can, but if you get to the test and they're asking you things that you've totally not studied for, or you have no idea about, no matter how confident you are, if you don't know the answer, like you can't answer it. So it's the same way in racing. You come into that test prepared and ready to perform and things like that. But until you actually start seeing the questions on the paper, you can't know for sure that you can answer them properly.
Is that something, I mean, we are here with your coach, so is that something that you had to get to through Graham? Like, you used to have a different attitude, or is that kind of how you've always been?
I think there's been like an evolution of that concept and that approach over the last few years. I think there's always been kind of an element of it in my mindset, but I think that having Graham to kind of like cement those ideas, and then to also kind of hold them with confidence when you are, before the race or during the race, or to like unleash them at the right times. That's where a lot of the work that we've done together has been valuable.
So yeah. back to the training piece, the training program. Obviously, I don't know you don't have to give the exact thing, but what are we getting? Like, what are the options? Is it monthly? Is it like, should we bring up the website here and maybe have a peek? Would that help?
There's a website? What? Who made that?
I'm asking.
Where did that come from?
I assume
if you go to knox.coach, Matt, or https://
no one says the H
colon.
colon. First of all, the first shot is Ryan going up this fucking hill up this dune. So you clearly just put this together. This is amazing.
Yeah. So I guess I can kind of talk about it a little bit, but basically, the way that the training is going to work is that it's on this really cool kind of social platform called Circle, which are kind of like customizable platforms. So think of like Facebook, and then kind of customize everything for your community. And then basically it's going to be it is a platform where we can share training and mental coaching and training and things like that. But from the physical side of things, I'm going to basically come out with a training program every week for people to do. And those are going to kind of be graded. And they're going to be based very much on the training that I'm doing at the time. So they're going to be, there's going to be different levels. There's going to be like an A, B, and C level of like how kind of difficult you want to do. So maybe if you're just starting, you start at the C level, and then maybe you try the B or the A after if it's too easy, or that's where you want to be. But then there's also going to be kind of like priorities within the week of like what you want. Say you're only able to do 3 of the 5 workouts that week. I'm going to tell you like which ones are the most important ones to do, and things like that. And then so every week I'm going to be posting a video explaining the training for the week and the training, and then people are going to basically follow along, and you can post within the community and say like, hey, this workout went really well, or I struggled, finding the correct pace on this workout. And then this is where people can kind of like work together to figure it out and to kind of inspire each other and things like that. So there's going to be a monthly kind of membership. And this is where we're hoping most of the people kind of fall. There will be like a pro kind of team as well, which will be, contact directly with Graham and I on a regular basis. But we're kind of hoping that a lot of people get into the general community and that we can kind of build from there. So yeah, it's going to be very interactive, and we're hoping that everyone kind of gets on this journey together going forward.
All right.
Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, totally. And I actually just popped on here. I'm looks like I'm the 3rd member. Oh no, there's Jackson here. Is Jack a coach, or is he just a member?
So Jack is currently road testing all of this for everybody.
Oh, nice.
So,
love it.
So he's just he came in the other day and he's just sort of testing how it sits from a user end.
Okay, so but I don't see how I can sign up.
Just read what it says there, Matt. Just read what it says on screen.
It says, great. Want to join the Knox community? Well, so just back up. First, it let me join. It did let me join without paying.
Yeah.
Right?
So
but
Circle is I'll give you a bit more background. Circle is about nearly 2 years old now. And it's a platform that's been designed for content creators to start engaging with their audience in a way where they can put this on. There are other communities on Circle for various other things. But when you're part of the Knox community, what you'll get is there's an area that sort of says generally what's going on, and it's a nice free bit. And then, but the real value is when you actually get into the community that you're on right now, Matt, on that page. So if you click on the general, you'll see there, it says join the community. And if you click on that join the community red button right in the middle, excellent, thank you very much, you'll see it sends you to a screen where you just subscribe per month.
Okay. So $60 a month. Okay.
$60 US.
USD.
USD.
There is So this is a one. This is a one. There's no like you get X amount for this. It's one program, $60 a month.
No excuses, Matt.
I'm asking the question.
No. It's a really good question, and we've looked at various different models of which you can bring this to people. What we know is that you can get programs from many different places in many different ways, but what you often don't get is that real-time context of what you're trying to do. So through doing it through this platform, what it means is Ryan and I can actually work real time with many of the people who join. So if those questions come up, we can respond reasonably quickly. Obviously, we both sleep, Ryan more than me, so we might not be able to respond where we're sleeping. But it means that we can more precisely reach more people with those little nuances in your training that might give you doubt, set you back a little bit, mean you can't perform as well. We can help you sort of get through those and elevate how you perform from there.
Okay. So, Graham, I want to run really far and long. I want to do what's called a backyard ultra. I did it once last year. I want to go even farther.
I may have joined you in that, Matt. I seem to recall.
Are you coming over here for that?
No, I did it did it from my house.
Oh, okay. His backyard.
In my backyard. The Queen's backyard. It was around Windsor Castle.
Oh, okay. I did this thing. So I want to continue to build my endurance. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can hop on here and get training specific to that.
I'll leave that to the body expert.
Okay.
So yeah, this is awesome, Matt, because basically there's going to be kind of like a holding pattern of training plans, and those are going to be kind of based on what I'm doing. And the great thing about this is they're going to be changing all the time. It's going to be really exciting. There's going to be, intervals and structures and ideas that you're probably not used to doing. So it's always going to be something kind of cool, a little bit out of the ordinary, and hopefully very engaging to you. So then as you approach your goal, your backyard ultra or your Spartan super or whatever it might be, you're going to say, you're going to go into the program, and then there's going to be like a tailored, a specifically tailored, 10-week program for your ultra or your super or your, whatever, Killington Beast. And you're going to click on that, and then you're going to follow that ultra specific, no pun intended, training plan to get you ready for so you're basically building up all your general fitness and your baseline with me. And that's where, and this is just based on how I've always trained in the most effective way that I've found, because you can only really focus on something that's like really specific for, I think they say 6 weeks. Is that right, Graham?
Yep.
They say about 6 weeks. I think you can stretch that to, 8 or 10. But so when you're focusing on the really kind of specific nuts and bolts training plan where you're like, okay, we're doing, and those training plans are just a little bit more boring because they're a little more monotonous. You're building on the same workouts every week that are just changing slightly. And that's how you really sharpen your fitness for a specific event. So you're going to join me for however long. And then once you're like, okay, now I have this thing on my calendar, whatever it is, 10 weeks, 8 weeks out, you're going to flip over to this other program, which is going to be on the Knox Circle app, but you're still able to stay in the program, and you can still post and ask questions. You can still, you can say like, hey, Ryan, I think that I see that I'm doing this, this long run on Thursday, but looks like the community is doing this really interesting, like OCR style run where they're doing like hill repeats and, pull-ups. And I really want to do that. Can I do that? And then I would jump on and say, yeah, sure, do this, but maybe, change this one interval or do it a little longer or something like that. So there's going to be this kind of like back and forth interactive aspect. And then as you sharpen for your specific event, you're following kind of your own thing.
I have a few thoughts. So I haven't looked at this on my phone yet. I was starting to, but then I got distracted, so I'm going to stay here. So does this look the same on mobile?
Yeah, so currently there is an iOS app called Circle where you would be able to get the app exactly the same as you see it on your desktop. The Android version is in development.
Okay. Because I was about to say, I would actually move away from using this term circle. I think adding apps confuses people. I think just saying go to Knox Coaching, and then when it says download this app, they download it. But
yeah,
that's my personal feedback as a business guy. Like,
right.
Because it doesn't say circle anywhere on here. It's all Knox. So I would just stick with talking about Knox.
Yeah.
But so I want to ask you a couple more questions here. So I could join, right? Which I'm going to ask you more specific questions about, which I think there's a lot of folks out there like me who do want to do the ultra stuff, whether it's ultra marathons or backyard ultras or what have you. At the same time, my friend Nick Riker joins, and he gives you $60 American, about 75 pounds, and says, I want to get. It's
about 47 actually, Matt. But
how many?
47.
Oh, it's down right now. The pounds is down. I want to be the best deca fitter I can be. Okay, and he can join at the same time. Okay, and we're both going to do this quote general fitness, and then as he gets closer to the event, he's going to get different programs.
Exactly.
Okay, so back to me.
Can I just add a little bit on that, Matt, as to why it's also designed like this?
Yes.
One of the things that often people fall into when they get a coach is they lean on their coach heavily like a crutch. Coach, tell me this. Coach, do that. Take all responsibility for my decision-making off my plate. That actually, in my experience, makes you less effective as an athlete or someone who trains for fitness or whatever, because you're not being real-time aware of the choices you need to make in the moment to improve. And like Ryan talked about with his race strategy in a very blurred out way, he wants to be in a position where he can respond to what's going on in the moment. So what we're encouraging people through the platform is to start to take responsibility for your choices in your training, because ultimately it will benefit you down the line. You will become a better athlete because you can trust your choices more. I worked with a guy in the UK last year who 12 months ago was debating, do I have a coach again or not? He, in the British Army, he was a qualified PT.
Was he the RAF?
No, Army. RAF is the Air Force. Army is on the ground.
I know. It's just checking.
Good. And we had a conversation, and you could see in his tone that he just wasn't trusting himself in his training. That guy went and won one of the biggest OCR races in the UK this year at the age of 47. Elite level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do I know his name?
It's Dave Rogers is his name. So no, Matt's going to Google now. He's like, who's Dave Rogers?
No, I was just
D Rogers 71 on Instagram. But by Dave trusting in himself, and I'm sure he won't mind me sharing the story, by Dave trusting in himself and his training, he made some really informed decisions through the year. He chose not to run a race before the big race, despite a great amount of peer pressure to go and do it. And look at what he went and made happen. And he was beating people 20 years younger than him. It's not bad going.
Would another way to say that be don't underestimate the force?
Yes.
Yeah, Matt, I think that Graham is kind of right on the ball here, and it's like, so first of all, you say like an athlete like Nick Riker, and you both join, and you're both following like the normal training plan, which is like, again, mostly what I'm doing. For someone like Nick, he can do probably exactly what I'm doing, and I think he'll find that very challenging to his overall fitness, and very a great way to increase his aerobic fitness in like a long-term sustainable way, because that's the way that I'm always approaching it. And then for someone like you who maybe has a little less time, a little less just general overall fitness than someone like Nick Riker, you might have to find that you're on the B program and that you're maybe missing one or two of the workouts a week. And I think that that's where kind of the personal learning and accountability and like being honest with yourself is really important, because a lot of athletes just want to do more and more and more. And they think that if I do some, it's good. And if I do more, it's better. And I'm like, I want to be really clear that people can pick and choose and see kind of, you know, how tough things are, and then react to those loads and then change them over time. So there's a definite aspect of learning yourself. And I think that that's a much more valuable approach than to just say, because if you just hire a coach, he's never going to quite be as invested in your performance as you are. So then it's just having that, you know, that confidence. And that's kind of where Graham and I are here, to be in people's corners, to give people the confidence to say, hey, yeah, the workout, it says that Ryan's doing 6 or 7 days of training this week, but if you can only do 4, that's totally fine. If you have, you know, a young kid that you have to take care of, or you're working these jobs and you have less time over the holidays, things like that, all these life stressors get in the way. And that's where you have the, you know, the ability to step back and say, I'm going to do, you know, just the really important workouts this week. And then, you know, the workouts that Ryan says are less important, I'm just going to not do them. And that's totally fine. So this is kind of like the approach that we're taking. It's kind of like a fluid training approach, and hopefully people learn from it.
So that the specific bit you mentioned about how long one can focus, I feel like for me, for ultra, for this last time I did when I did this backyard ultra, I certainly had ideas about how that was going to go, and it wasn't until it was over that I go, oh, okay, now I might have a general idea of how to train for it. I've since said that. I've since realized what a huge thing that is. Just like World's Toughest, it's like, listen, your first one is your first one, right? You want to have a goal, great, but at the end of the day, the best way to fucking train for it is to know what the hell you're doing. And once you've done one, you've got all this information that's now in your brain and in your blood, right? So the first thing I thought when I finished, or when I was done, was, okay, my ramp wasn't long enough. I didn't put enough time on feet leading into the race. So when you say there's a limit of 15 weeks or 18 weeks, don't you think that can be sort of cheated longer for a 100-miler or a backyard ultra that's going to go probably more than 24 hours?
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that's why you're training in a way, like you're doing the things that I'm doing that are going to get you to within 80 or 90% of like as great as you could be. And that's why the specific program is condensed, because it's not so much of there's no benefit to doing a longer training program and a longer build, but it's more of like a mental and emotional roadblock, where if you're focusing really hard and you're getting up at 4 a.m. to do your 3-hour long runs, and you're, you know, not drinking and eating only, you know, the best foods and doing all these things to get every last little bit of performance out of yourself, those are the things that you can only maintain for a short amount of time. You can follow a training program, you know, for 52 weeks of the year if you want. Like, that's totally fine. I'm just saying that when you're stretching and you're pushing your limits and you're pushing your volume, eventually something is going to give. It's going to be either mental burnout, it's going to be injury, it's going to be something is going to happen where you're like, oh shoot, now I, you know, have plantar fasciitis and I can't run at all. There goes my whole, you know, training program. And so that's why I recognize the importance of like having those prep periods that are stretching people from a physical and mental perspective. But there's also, I think there's like a very fine limit to those. And also, like, I always want people to err on the side of caution. Like, if you can do 95%, you can do 105%, or you can do 100%. Obviously, like, the best would be to do 100% of what you're able to do, but I would much rather everybody do the 95% and come into the race a little fresher, a little more excited about racing, and not all it takes is like if you're at 100% and you do one interval a little bit too hard, it can be enough to push you over the edge, and then you're going to have a worse performance at the event.
I feel like you guys are blowing my mind, and there's a lot I want to talk about because I've experienced exactly what you're talking about.
You always say this every time we come on, Matt. You're like, Graham, can I just spend some time with you? Because I think we could talk for hours.
Well,
but you didn't come to Abu Dhabi. Well, Randall.
Randall's amazing.
Who we loved, Randall.
Yeah, Randall was awesome, by the way. Legend, that guy.
People say that on every show. Like, oh, we're going to have you back. We'll talk forever, blah, blah, blah. Listen, goddammit. I recently, in the middle of October, was missing all my runs, right?
Right.
I either stop halfway or I was missing them. And I just told my coach, listen, I've been doing this for 2 years. With him only a few months, but my previous coach about 2 years. And with little breaks in between, you know, after a big race, we do a little deload or whatever. I said, I need to not think. I need to just go run what I normally do, which is this just basic base of 4 or 5 miles, 4 or 5 times a week. Like, I just need to turn my mind off and not do anything. And I have been thrilled with that. Like, thrilled. Because when I miss a run, I miss a run, and it's no fucking big deal. Yesterday, I felt like doing 9. I ran 9. You know what I mean? The previous Saturday, I felt like running 12. I ran 12. You know what I mean? And so I feel like, and the eating part is a huge part of it. And I definitely go to the perfectionist part of like, well, I'm not doing it. And so now fuck it, I'm not doing it. Right. And so this idea of we can only do this for a certain amount of time, at least for me, like my wife, you know, she had a bodybuilding show. She still measures her food. And I said, do you think you'll do it forever? She's like, at this point, probably. It's what I like. It's what I do. And I can't do that. Right. I can only go like, you know, I don't do this. I always have cream in my coffee, but let's just say for somebody else, like no cream in the coffee, no white sugars and flours. Like it's really hard to be perfect. But if I'm like, hey, for 16, 18 weeks, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop an extra few pounds. It seems much more doable.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's the thing, Matt. Like when there's something you really care about and care about achieving, 6 weeks is only the amount of time you're comfortable to make those compromises to get there before it hurts. And it starts to feel waning. If you could have been on a fly on a wall to a conversation Ryan and I had in the 6 weeks leading up to Abu Dhabi, we all have it. The question I want to ask you now is, if you could go back to that point in time when you realized, what would have been the authentic conversation you would have had with yourself at the time?
About which?
Like where you were in the world. Like where you were in the world at that moment. When you were making that decision where it was feeling quite stressed and tight within yourself, what would have been the authentic conversation you really could have had with yourself that hindsight's taught you might have had?
About letting go of my coach?
Yeah. Is it letting go of your coach? Is it letting go of the pressure you place upon yourself? What's the truth that you didn't speak?
Well, I'm saying I did speak it, and I told my coach, and he was like, cool. And I'm not even going to tell you when we're coming back. And about a week ago, I said, how about January 1st? And so, because that's what feels right. And maybe I'll push that because I'm kind of liking what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of enjoying the no pressure.
How long did it take you to get to that decision?
That decision?
Yeah.
My whole life.
It's hard, isn't it? It's hard.
It's really, and remember, I'm not an elite level.
Neither am I.
Right.
But we all do it. And it's all these things appear in everyone in some way. And what I'm saying is through the community, that's where I'm going to come in. Can we help identify some of these moments slightly earlier so we release ourselves from the burden that may be there?
See, here we are back at another question that I think we could talk hours about, which is, well, I'm going to listen to my body, right? Versus I'm being a lazy fuck and I just don't want to run today, right? Like, isn't this what we all go through? So how do we know when we're being full of shit? Back to what the question, Graham. I'm going to listen to my body.
Authentic conversation with ourselves, which is the bit we're not listening to, which is the bit we're denying, which is the bit we're not actually honoring to the fullest extent. You've honored it, and look how you feel. You actually feel like you're enjoying running again by the sounds of things.
Correct.
Isn't that the point?
I feel like it was a lot easier for me to make that decision after running with and without a coach, with or without training programs the last 10 years. You asked me how long, probably 10 years to actually being able to trust myself to make that decision. Right. But on the daily basis, right. A little sore, a little tweaked, you know, or even the choice to DNF a race. Another big place we lie to ourselves. Right. I'm taking care of my body versus, I just really wanted to fucking quit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's I really struggled with how to make this training plan different than others because, to be honest, it's not very hard to just go online and find a free training program that says, you know, oh, if you know, progress your mileage, start at 40 miles and then do 45 and then do 50 and then do 40 and things like that, or like, you know, progress your structure, progress this or that. But I think that the beauty of what we're doing is, like, I guess I've said it before, it's the community aspect. It's the feedback from Graham and I. It's the, it's like, it's for people like you, Matt, who you're like, hey, I'm doing this program and, you know, I'm really not motivated, but then you go on to the app and you see this, you know, a workout that I've programmed this week that looks fun. And then like other people have done it and you're like, hey, maybe I'm just going to, Ryan says this is the most, if I can only do one thing this week, this is it. And it's only 45 minutes long. Like I can do 45 minutes and then you do it. And then you talk to someone else who was like, oh yeah, that was really hard. Like, what did you see? Well, how did you feel? And things like that. And then you kind of like form that relationship and then you kind of attach that relationship to like a level of excitement about your training. And then maybe the following week you only do one again, or maybe you do two of the workouts or whatever. But like, I found that, yeah, just like some level of consistency is like, and like excitement is obviously way better than doing nothing. And so that's, and then like, as you do this, hopefully it builds and you become more invested and more excited about what you're doing. And then before you know it, you're doing, you know, 4 days a week. And then you're like, hey, I'm going to do this ultra. I can do 8 weeks of really specific training with no cream in my coffee. Like, let's do it. And then, so yeah, that's kind of like the adaptive nature of the program.
All right. I'm convinced.
Sweet. Look forward to seeing you in there, Matt. Do you want to know some other key facts about the whole thing, Matt? Key facts.
Yes, and then I'm gonna
factoids.
And then I'm gonna let them, and then we'll close this up because I think we've given people a lot to digest.
Factoids. It's global.
Okay.
So when people subscribe, it will charge their credit card in their local currency with any additional things. So this is a truly global program.
Okay.
So people from anywhere in the world can get this, and we'd love to have people from different aspects because culturally cultures play an element in all of how you perform as well. So that's one thing that's true from there. Secondly, we're going to give people a little goodie if they join up.
A goodie?
Early. We're going to give some goodies.
Okay. Okay.
First 25 people who join up are going to get the T-shirt they saw Ryan wearing today.
Dude, all right, now I'm in.
See, sure. Look at him. Merch. We knew that I'd hook him in. So yeah, first 25 people who sign up, we're going to give them that. And then the final little piece of information is that we are going to actively search for 6 athletes to work with one-to-one.
And what does that mean?
We're going to create a team of high-end performers. You could call them potentially professionals. So we're going to create a pro team.
It. Team Knox.
Popros.
Popros.
So we're going to actually we're going to open the recruitment. There's a survey that people are going to have to fill in.
You know where they should, where you should have your annual meeting?
Where?
At Spartan Knoxville.
Nice.
Should we invite Johnny as well? Should we invite Johnny as well to that?
I know Atkins loves a good pun.
That was good, Matt. I do appreciate that.
Guest speaker, Johnny
Knoxville.
Yeah! 1 point to that man in the
But I already made the Knoxville joke, so you can't do it twice.
I'm just building on it, Matt. Building on it. No, so yeah, we're gonna launch a survey for the pro team. People can actually put their applications in, and we'll do a whole screening process.
Okay, well,
and it'll be called the School of Hard Knocks.
Bam, Atkins. That's amazing.
He can't
Is that on the website? Because I will blow this up right now. I will share the shit out of this.
It's not that. It's not.
Oh.
But when it's out there, Matt, you can. We'll let you do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to join the School of Hard Knocks?
Though. I am going to share your link, though.
Thank you.
Okay. I do like the community aspect, right? I think that's a hey, I've done this week. What do you think? You know what I mean? I think that's obviously everyone uses this term community, but it's a real thing, right? Like, like, you know what I found when I did this? I thought this part was going to be hard, or I struggled with this part. And of course, different strokes for different folks. It's like some things are going to be different. You know, I might experience some training very differently than my friend Nick Riker. But there we go. All right. Well, listen, this was awesome. I'm going to put this out ASAP this week. Give people a little.
You are officially responsible now for the launch, Matt.
Am I?
When you put this out, you launch it.
Okay, fantastic. There you have it. Thank you so much for watching. I've got some great interviews coming your way on the podcast, on the videos, including Savage Race with our all new points series. Go check that out. Also, in the next couple of days. Also, come join the Patreon. It's the season of giving. It's a time for you to go, you know what? Who do I want to give to this year? I want to give to Obstacle Racing Media for all the awesome stuff they do. The race content, the podcast, the videos, the fun stuff. Go ahead and join there. You can pay for a month or you can pay for a year. Links in lay description or patreon.com/Obstacle Racing Media. Love ya. Miss ya. Mean it. I got to run.